I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Wednesday, April 3rd. The First Nations Child and Family Caring Society is once again before the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal. This time it's to take the feds to task for failing to process Jordan's principal claims in a timely manner. Fraser Needham reports.
Former Associate Deputy Minister for Indigenous Services Valerie Gideon was before the tribunal on Tuesday. She said one thing that might help the government meet the backlog of Jordan's principal requests is increasing First Nations capacity to assist in processing claims.
I think the extent to which First Nations could participate in the determination of requests is something that would, first of all, alleviate, obviously, the volume of requests that would come to the federal government, but it would also be more aligned in the pathway to self-determination.
Jordan's principal says First Nations kids are supposed to be able to receive health, social, and educational supports when they need them, regardless of whether they live within a federal, provincial, or territorial jurisdiction. First Nations Family and Caring Society says Ottawa continues to fail to meet this standard and First Nations children are dying because of it. Documents discussed at the hearing show the government is failing to process requests on time in about 35% of cases.
We want Canada to abide by its legal orders so that kids stop being hurt and kids don't die unnecessarily. I mean, one of the things we're hearing a lot about in that room today is a lot of procedural stuff for the government, how these are operational concerns for the government. What we're not hearing is what's happening at the ground for kids.
For her part, tribunal adjudicator Sophie Marshallton told the hearing the status quo clearly isn't working, and it is incumbent upon all parties to do better.
Surely there's a better way moving forward, and I personally will ask every single party to dream the best scenario that they've ever dreamed of, and to review the requested orders, thinking we need solutions now, and we also need solutions in the long term.
The hearing continues on all week. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
The alleged mistreatment of two Mi'kmaq men by federal fisheries officers has Nova Scotia chiefs calling for an emergency meeting with the minister. With more on why, Angel Moore.
Well, the first thing we were looking for is for those individuals that are responsible to immediately be fired from DFO and be held accountable for their actions.
About 50 people, including Mi'kmaq fishers, community leaders, and supporters, gathered at the Department of Fisheries and Oceans Regional Office in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, to peacefully protest against the actions of fisheries officers. Two Mi'kmaq fishermen, Blaise Sillyboy of the Eskazoni First Nation and Kevin Hartling of the Membertou First Nation, say the officers left them with no phones and no shoes in the middle of the night at a gas station in Shelburne, Nova Scotia, about 200 kilometers southeast of Halifax.
Yes, we told them that we were not from the area. We were from Cape Breton, and we had no way to contact anyone without our phones. I even asked them if they could supervise me. Well, I looked through my contacts on my phone so I could get a hold of someone, and they refused to do that as well.
Elvers can sell for up to $5,000 a kilogram. However, last month, DFO canceled the elver fishery, citing a need to conserve the species and because of safety reasons. Hartling and Sillyboy say on March 26, just before midnight, they were arrested by fisheries officers for unauthorized elver fishing. They seized their gear, including their cell phones and wading boots.
I even told him, you can cut the boots and just give me the boots. I'll wear them. And he was like, no, if I do that, I can't. There'll be no investigation. I say, yeah, I understand, but right now I have no shoes, man.
According to the two Mi'kmaq fishermen, fisheries officers drove them to the Irving gas station in Shelburne, Nova Scotia. Sillyboy was shocked they were left wearing their socks with no footwear.
I told him, you're really going to leave me here with no shoes at the Irving station? He said, you know the consequences, man. He said that's your fault. And I was just like, man, why would you leave somebody like that?
Hartling and Sillyboy say they started walking with cardboard and plastic wrapped around their feet, donated by the clerk at the gas station. It was about 7 degrees Celsius with drizzle and fog.
I couldn't wait outside the Irving station. If I waited outside the Irving station, I could have frozen it. It was cold out.
Along the highway, the fishers say they came across a clothing bin. They helped themselves and wrapped their feet with clothes. After walking a few more hours, a car picked them up and drove them back to Shelburne. Sillyboy called for help. Hartling says the experience was terrible.
People even put shoes on their dogs in the wintertime for they don't get salt and shit in their feet. We didn't even have that.
A statement from the Minister of Fisheries, Diane Lebotier's office, confirms 2 people were arrested and released in Shelburne County on March 26, and we are taking the situation extremely seriously. DFO has launched an investigation into it and is also in touch with community leadership. As this matter is under an investigation, it would be inappropriate to comment further at this time. Chief Bob Glode of the Millbrook First Nation was at the protest.
The next thing we need to do is continue to emphasize to DFO that our rights supersede the DFO regulations and rules and regulations regarding how they manage the fisheries.
The Mi'kmaq fishers and supporters made their way to the location where Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was holding a press conference and made sure they were heard. Trudeau was asked how his government would be accountable.
I think the first step is making sure there's a full investigation into what happened. And then as the facts are made clear, there will need to be consequences and responses.
Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also called Halifax.
The Manitoba government has just unveiled its 2024 budget, the first to be released under NDP Premier Wab Kinew. Much of the budget focused on expanding the healthcare system. Meanwhile, commitments to northern communities included a new airport at Wasagamok First Nation, as well as better access to dialysis services in Norway House and Pimichigamak Cree Nation. The province will also dedicate $20 million to a missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and two-spirit strategy. That's on top of the $20 million it recently committed to search the Prairie Green landfill for the remains of 3 Indigenous women. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kathy Merrick looks forward to a discussion about that search with the Premier.
We're very pleased as to what was pushed forward by the provincial government. We have to give them time. So as the Grand Chiefs of in respect to that process, we're very happy with Wasagamok getting their airport, and that's something that's a lifeline for their people.
And finally, Saskatoon's only late-night safe consumption site will soon be forced to reduce its hours. At present, Prairie Harm Reduction operates from 10 a.m. until 10 p.m., but beginning May 1st, they'll only stay open till 4 p.m. Attributed to a lack of funding and increased demands on staff, the cutback in hours will also apply to the facility's drop-in center. The center houses the only public washroom in the surrounding area. It's also been a space for people to warm up in the winter and cool down in the summer. Kyla Demung is Prairie Harm Reduction's executive director. She says it's the government's responsibility to step in to ensure services like theirs can stay open.
We know the numbers are growing. We know the lack of housing. We know the lack of financial support. And year after year, we're seeing less and less money being put into this community.
And that's your APTN News Brief for Wednesday, April 3rd. I'm Rick Harp.